Greetings. I wanted to reach out to you and tell you a little story that happened to me this morning. I was taking a little walk with my chanting beads. It's called a japa walk around a pond that's right behind our apartment. We have a nice pond and we like to walk around there. There's lots of wildlife there. There's always Canadian geese and ducks, and now in the spring it seems as though so many of those geese family have little goslings, and they're growing up and becoming teenager goslings, and there's always turtles there and different birds singing, and it's just a lovely place to walk and chant. Most every day I'll walk around the pond, or Anutama and I will walk around together. So this morning I was walking, and there's such a nice reflection of the trees and the water, and so often when the sun is shining, there's that kind of glittering like diamonds of the sun sparkling on the water. But always, just thinking of the spiritual world and the reflected world, this material realm being a reflection of the spiritual realm. So always that meditation is there, seeing the reflection on the lake. So this morning I was walking kind of right around this one curve and crying. It sounded like crying of a baby, and it coming from the water, and I looked over to see what it was, where that crying was coming from. And I saw this gray-blue heron, which is quite a majestic bird. I think it's the state bird of Maryland, but it's quite a majestic bird that stands very straight and noble, and almost looking like it's in meditation when it's waiting to catch some, usually fish. But I heard this crying, and I looked over, and there was this gray-blue heron, and he was holding a really big frog in his mouth by the leg, and the frog was crying. I was hearing the frog crying. It was struggling and crying, and then eventually perhaps it must have died of the shock of being held by the leg of this gigantic bird. And I was thinking that there's so much beauty in nature, but this is the reflected nature of the spiritual realm, and in this reflected world there's so much weak being the subsistence of the strong. And when I was standing there just listening and watching, I pointed it out to this one man who was walking by, and he seemed oblivious to the suffering that I was observing, and seeing the frog in the mouth of this heron. But he said, "Isn't it beautiful? We have this lake here, and just in the middle of the city, we have this lovely lake." And I was just so struck by the duality, really, of the beauty of nature and the peace of nature, but then this underlying struggle for existence just there before our eyes, and the fear of the animal species, And I think that's one difference when we come to the human form of life and we try to approach the path of bhakti. We can begin to, by taking shelter of what's real and what's eternal, try to move away from that struggle for existence, move away from that trying to arm ourselves and the fear and the defending ourselves and all of those struggles, by just trying to find a repose at Krishna's feet. So just this duality of nature. I was so struck by the real world, the reflected world, and just this sound of who is crying? Who's crying in this world? And when I cry, can I cry out to the one who can really ease my suffering? Can I cry out to Krishna? So these are a few thoughts on some of the beauty and some of the even peril that's there in this reflected world. So thank you so much for listening. This is Rukmini Walker.